So you've decided to become a private pilot. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to plan that out in terms of budget, in terms of frequency, in terms of duration. Let's go. So you've decided to do your PPL, you've chosen an airfield, you've got your instructor. The next thing to do is really just to plan that journey, and if you can do it with your instructor, that's ideal. What you need to have in mind is the sort of frequency that you're going to follow. When I was doing mine, I was trying to fly once a week. Generally a lesson is 2 hours. They do get a little bit longer towards the end of the course, but you'll have an hour of flying time and sort of an hour, maybe half an hour on each side of that, so 2 hours at a time. But think about the frequency that you want to do it. Once a week is ideal. Certainly in the country I live in the UK, it's not possible to fly every week consistently and reliably because the weather gets in the way. Of course, when you're learning to fly, it's all visual flight rules, so you need to be able to see the ground, you need to be out of the clouds, and so on. So think about the frequency, and that will give you then a sort of an ability to plan out your 45 hours. 45 hours, keep in mind, is a minimum. Most people don't do it in 45 hours. They do it in, I think I was sort of 55, 57 hours in the end, so you'll spend a little bit more time than that, and a good rule of thumb is about 18 months, and that allows for loads of time not flying where you're on holiday or maybe visiting friends and family overseas. You don't have access to a plane. It also gives you a big allowance for inclement weather that we certainly get a lot of here in the UK. So that's sort of the journey time. Think about also with your instructor planning out the sort of phases. There'll be a fairly structured way you'll go through it. You'll get used to the controls and flying straight and level, for example. Then you'll start to get into maneuvers and feel how the plane performs. Then you'll get into the more edgy stuff, let's say, of understanding the sort of limits of what the aircraft can do, what stops it flying, stalls and stall recoveries, what makes it spin, and how to recover from that, and what happens if emergencies evolve once you're in the air, an engine failure, for example. You'll practice all of that. Don't be afraid. It's actually quite reassuring to be in an aircraft, to stall it at 3,000 or 4,000 feet and just understand that the thing still flies. You do a pretty simple thing to recover from that, and it's pretty robust. And it's also really helpful to understand that the thing flies even when the engine stops as well. They're like gliders, pretty heavy and inefficient gliders, but they are like gliders. So plan the phases out in terms of the sort of chunks of this. When you're going to do the tests is an important thing. You'll need to do it a couple of things before you go on your first solo, certainly air law, for example. So you'll need to have a bit of a plan on where you sort of weave the practical theory and the theory in around the practical, if you see what I mean. And then, of course, the end part of it, you're doing skills tests and solo cross country and this sort of thing. I'll talk more about that in a later video. Finally, think about the budget. And I'll go more into this in a subsequent video, but a good rule of thumb in terms of getting your private pilot's license, at least in this country, in the UK, is about £10,000. So it's the price of a small car. And if that's a passion, it's a skill that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life, that's an investment that I would suggest is well worth making, because it will stay with you for the rest of your life. Whether you fly frequently or not, it'll always be there if you want to return to it. So that's around the money, and of course, depending on what your financial circumstances are, that may cause you to want to sort of extend it a little bit further. 10,000 over 3 years is a little bit easier than 10,000 over 2 years or 10,000 over 1 year. So that also sort of influences the way that you plan and structure your course. I hope those tips were helpful. Join me in the next video.